Has the thought ever occurred to you that maybe the reason you're not successful yet is because you're too smart? Maybe the reason why you don't have any friends is because you're too smart. Has that thought ever occurred to you? Because it might very well be the case, and this doesn't matter if it's IQ related or your practical intelligence or a combination of both. But I'm here to tell you that you can have your cake and eat it. Yes, you can be gifted with intelligence and still climb the ranks of society, attain success and friendships and relationships along the way. But you have to go about it in a strategic way. And so I wanted to discuss with you today something that I feel is very important. Law 21 from the 48 Laws of Power. Play a sucker to catch a sucker. Seem dumber than your mark. Now, this example they provide involves deception. But make no mistake, this goes far beyond just deception. It's essential and pivotal in climbing ranks of any social hierarchy, whether it's your job, whether it's in a school system, whether it's in a sports team. It's absolutely imperative that you try to hide your intelligence. If you want to get far in life and you really are gifted and you really feel that you are intelligent, and you probably are intelligent if this video is somehow in your algorithm, if somehow you got this video recommended to you, you probably are more likely than not at least above average intelligence. And that's not to say that I'm intelligent. I'm retarded. You know, it's better to be a retard than a midwit, if I'm being honest. But I wanted to explain to you how you could, step by step, hide and conceal your intelligence. And I'm going to give you some examples, some historical examples that were provided from Robert Greene in the 48 Laws of Power. That's a book you should all read if you haven't, by the way, the 48 Laws of Power. I started reading it when I was 15 years old. Absolutely instrumental in starting my business and managing a massive amount of people and customers, making sure they don't see you as authoritarian. Very instrumental in how I came up. But today we want to talk about how to conceal your intelligence and why it's so important. You see, the Chinese used to have a saying, masquerade as a tiger. I fucked up the saying. I fucked it up. All right, let's do it again. The Chinese had a saying, masquerading as a swine to catch the tiger. And the reason they did this was so the tiger would feel comfortable being close to the hunter. You see, what they would do is they would dress as pigs, with a snout. They'd make oinking noises like a pig, so the tiger would get real close. And the tiger's, licking its lips. It's happy. It's about to enjoy a good meal. And in that moment, the tiger feels so much strength, and the tiger feels so good. And the hunter's putting his ego aside, seeming like a weak little pig. But in the end, it's the hunter who has the last laugh, and that's all that matters. Who has the last laugh? Keep your eye on the end game. And that's why so many people read the 48 Laws of Power. So many people. And it goes in one ear, out the other. And it's because in order to apply these laws, you really need to drop your ego. And you need to put your pride aside temporarily. Pride and ego could be very useful instruments in keeping you motivated and disciplined to do what you have to do, but you shouldn't depend on motivation anyway. But you need to be able to tame your pride and be able to control it and use it only when it's beneficial to you, and be able to put it aside when it's not beneficial to you. And many people read these things in the 48 Laws of Power. They understand them. They know it makes sense. Logically they get it, but they don't apply it. They even go around telling their friends about it. They tell their mother and father about these things that they've learned. And they go around teaching people. Well, this is fucking ironic, isn't it? They go around teaching people about all these laws, but they don't apply them, because in order to apply them, oftentimes you need to put your ego aside. And this is one of the most difficult ones to apply. It's one of the easiest ones to understand, but probably the hardest one to actually apply in real time when you're in real social scenarios, and make it a genuine habit in your lifestyle. Because this is not something that's going to happen overnight. This is a complete lifestyle shift that you're going to have to practice every single day. Starting from you finishing this video today, I want you to try your best to focus on concealing your intelligence. I'm going to tell you a story, all right? A story that was referenced in the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. And it's a very notorious deception story. And this isn't just important for deception. Deception is simply the example being used, but this is absolutely essential for managing your relationships, being well liked and well received by people around you, and climbing the ranks at your job or starting your own company, and just climbing ranks in society in general. But deception is just one avenue where this comes into play. And so there were these two guys, two retards, John Slack and Arnold, right? And they owned this plot of land. And apparently there had been diamonds found on this plot of land. And so word got out to the most powerful men in the country, most richest aristocrats in the country, all getting together saying, this is crazy. There's diamonds in the United States, in the West. Of course they're skeptical. But at the same time, they couldn't be too skeptical, because there was a gold rush in the West too. And that turned out to be legitimate, despite all the skepticism initially. And so they decided they were going to send a mining expert down to the plot of land to investigate it. And so, upon arriving, John and Arnold, the two retards, greeted the man. How you doing? Yeah, well, we're going to take you to the area. Took them in like a circular route so they couldn't find its precise location on their own. And then he showed them an area where he'd been digging and some diamonds he found. And the mining expert was like, okay, I'm going to go bring these to Tiffany in New York to go verify its authenticity. John Slack and Arnold, the two retards, were like, wait, hold on. You want to take our diamonds to New York, to Tiffany? I don't know about that, because, we think we're going to get, like, robbed by them. We're not the sharpest tools in the shed. We're a little skeptical of doing that. We're probably going to get fleeced. And so they were like, all right, rest assured, it's going to be okay. What we're going to do is I'm going to get these diamonds verified. And if they're verified, we're going to give you $100,000 cash. And we're going to put $300,000 in escrow. And so they agreed to that reluctantly. And so on the trip to New York, they get the diamond verified. It's real. It's a real diamond, and Tiffany's ecstatic, because Tiffany knows that if there's this massive mine of diamonds pulling out tens of millions of dollars of diamonds at the time, that's how much it was now, it would be billions of dollars. Tiffany's ecstatic. Tiffany's like, this is great, overinflating the value of the diamond, saying like, oh, this is worth $1 million. It's definitely legitimate, though. It was legitimate. All right? And so then the word got out to the aristocrats, the very powerful men who had been scheming this. And they said, okay, we're going to give you the $100,000 now. And we're going to put $300,000 in escrow to put you at ease, because we know you're not, We're gonna put you at ease, okay? And they're like, okay. And on this trip to New York, while John and Arnold were like gazing up at buildings like this, ready? I want you to pay attention, you know? They're looking up at buildings like this, like, whoa, look at that big one. Look at that big one. Whoa, like look at the design on that one. That's crazy. You know, just so amazed and taken aback by all this architecture. And this is an indirect way to communicate through your behavior. And it puts people's guards down. So these aristocrats, you know, they got word of this behavior, and of course they already knew too that these two guys were retarded. But and they were also wearing like clothing that was poorly fitted on them, clothing that was too tight, pants that were too short. They looked like fools, they acted like fools. And so they put they give the $100,000 to John and Arnold, and $300,000 goes in escrow, right? And now they say, okay, we're gonna send a way more skeptical mining expert, like the best expert in the country, to go investigate your mine. And because they got the $100,000 and the $300,000 in escrow, now they felt more comfortable with it. Like, all right, we'll do this. So they go back to the mine, and this time the skeptical miner is looking around, and he starts seeing diamonds. He's seeing emeralds and rubies, and he's sold. Like, this is crazy. They go get the gems verified, and they're all legitimate. So the aristocrats were like ecstatic. They were like, this is fucking crazy, but we got to figure out a way to cut out John and Arnold, because this thing is going to pull out tens of millions of dollars every single year, and we are not going to let these two retards get a touch of it. So they explained to them, like, hey, John, Arnold, come here. You know, pat on the back. Look, if you try to get any equity in this, you're just going to end up getting fleeced. And we want to look out for your best interests, so we honestly think you should just take this $700,000 cash offer and be on your way. And at first, they were reluctant, but then they said, okay, you're probably right. You know, we're not used to New York. We're not used to dealing with these big businessmen. We're not the brightest, so all right, we'll take the $700,000. And all these aristocrats and businessmen were laughing, because they just fucking hit the biggest lick ever. They're going to be pulling out tens of millions of dollars in diamonds. And these two fucking retards just sold them the mine for $700,000. But remember, the hunter was being laughed at by the tiger when he was dressed as a pig. He was being laughed at by the tiger, and the tiger was licking its lips. It's gonna be an easy meal. And then the hunter takes off the fucking snout, aims his gun, shoots the fucking tiger, kills the tiger. And so the aristocrats, they spend tens of millions of dollars and the most expensive, best equipment possible to go truly dig up this mine. They spend all the money. They go to the mine. They start setting everything up. Not a single fucking diamond was found. Not a single one. They were ruined. Reputations ruined. Money lost. And the sale had been legitimate. So they can't even pursue the two retards legally, because it was a legitimate sale for a plot of land. That was it. They couldn't fucking do shit about it. And how embarrassing it was. You see, the reason the scam worked out so well, it's not... The fucking alarm, Jesus Christ. I'll pay you later. The reason it worked so well is not because they bribed Tiffany. It's not because they had some fancy engineered equipment so they could, you know, manufacture fake diamonds or anything like this. I forgot to say it in the moment, but They used $100,000 in cash that was used to reassure them with the 300K in escrow. They used that to purchase lots of real diamonds and emeralds to salt the mine with to make it even more believable. Initially, it was just a couple of, small diamonds that they had saved up their money for. But after they got the 100K, they used that 100K to salt the mine even more. No, the genius in the con is the deceptor's first commandment: appear dumber than the mark. John, Slack, and Arnold were not retards. They might not have been geniuses, but they were smart enough to know that if they hid their intelligence, it would put the guard down of the aristocrats and the mining experts. Because no way would two fools that were amazed at looking at buildings and could hardly dress themselves would be so competent to pull off such an audacious scam. And so their guard was down. It's a tale as old as time. And you see, when you hide your intelligence, people around you have their guard come down. And not only are you more likely to be their friend, because nobody likes being next to someone who's more intelligent than they are. It's something evolutionary within us. Biologically, we're wired to put our guard up when we feel someone else is more intelligent than us. And it also hurts our pride and our ego when someone makes fun of our intelligence or brain power. That's a deadly sin that you should never commit. Never make fun of somebody's intelligence. It will certainly come back to get you in the ass later down the line, because that sticks with people. So, I'll give you another example, because it goes beyond just basic intelligence, but also other types of behaviors too. Like if people read you to be very calculated, they're going to be more careful when they do dealings with you. But if they see you as very emotional and aggressive when you want them to, because you shouldn't normally act like that, but when you strategically want to portray that image so they feel like they have the upper hand, it could be very advantageous. So I'll give you an example. This one leader of Russia, I think, he wanted a treaty to be signed, maybe by France, and the treaty was clearly in his favor. It would definitely be way better for it to get signed, and so unlikely that France would sign this, or whatever country it was. And before they showed the treaty, he knew that the France leader really liked this card game. I forgot the name of it. Think of it like poker, right? And so he used the poker game to paint a picture of who he was as a person. And so he played the worst, imagine it's poker, like the worst poker game possible, super emotional, betting aggressively, and finally losing all of his money. But all of this was intentional, part of the plan. Even though he acted upset that he lost the $12,000 or whatever it was at the time, this was all part of the plan, because he knew that the other leader got a read on this and would say to himself, this guy is emotional, this guy is not calculated, yeah, whatever, this guy's not capable of deceiving me. This guy's going to run into a rash decision in our negotiations. So he gets the treaty, they're talking, and he goes to sign the paper, signs the paper. The leader of Russia stands up and he says, well, I never would have thought I would have got a Frenchman to sign that document. And he walked out. It was all part of the plan. He wasn't emotional and frustrated with the game. He was just painting a picture that he was someone who is easily manipulated and emotional, makes very aggressive decisions. So it made the other leader think like, oh yeah, of course I'm making a good decision if the person I'm dealing with is very aggressive and like emotional. Like, look at how we just played cards. And this is a tactic that you could apply in your everyday life as well. Now, you're not going to play card games with everyone, but there's situations. There's all kinds of situations where you could implement these things strategically when you want to. And it all comes down to being able to put your ego to the side temporarily and just know that you are going to be the one who has the last laugh in the end. Let that reassure you. You will have the last laugh in the end. All these micro interactions in between are going to be forgotten in a few days. Don't worry about it. But this goes beyond just intelligence too, and behavior. It really comes down to any of your strengths. In general, it's usually ideal to try to hide your strengths. In fact, one of the first laws of the 48 laws of power, never outshine the master. That's one of the ones this ties in with really well. Because you never want to make someone feel like you're better than them, even if you are. You know, just let them have that edge. Let them think that they have the edge, especially important in negotiations. Now, there is a reversal to this law too, because this isn't always the case. Most of these laws are not absolute. So the reversal would be like, sometimes your air of confidence and authority in your area of expertise could prove to be important and useful, and it's important to show your intelligence then. So, for example, there was this art dealer, and the art dealer had a big showing of a bunch of art, and a young new Frenchman walked in, and he had a very keen eye, very, very experienced eye, and he's good at spotting fakes, but not perfect. It was impossible to spot fakes perfectly. And so he spotted one on the floor, and he said, "Excuse me, Duvat, whatever his name was, I believe this isn't the real painting." Duvet replied, "Oh, how many have came before you who said the same thing? And you've fallen for the same thing too. I've heard it so many times, but I don't blame you. But this is certainly legitimate." And the way he said it with such an air of confidence and authority, the Frenchman immediately backed away and accepted, like, "Oh, yeah, for sure." You know, because he wasn't 100% certain that it was fake. And the Duvat, whatever the fuck his name is, he knew that it was not real. But he knew that all that it mattered was that the buyer thought that it was real. And so sometimes there is a reversal to this. Sometimes it is important to show your intelligence. Sometimes it is important to show your competence. If you're an expert in something on social media, for example, like for me, reselling, it's important for me to show my level of expertise in that area, of course. So this isn't an absolute. There are some times you need to show your area of expertise. You need to show your level of expertise and your level of knowledge within a field. But the majority of the interactions that you're in on a daily basis, and especially if you work a job too, the overwhelming majority of these, it is not the reversal, and you should be following the law, and you should be concealing your intelligence. And this goes beyond power. This goes beyond money. This goes beyond climbing ranks. This is also absolutely pivotal in managing your relationships and your friendships. If somebody, you know, has something to say in your friend group about politics or whatever, something smart, maybe something to do with physics, and you know from your experience, something that you read or something that you've critically thought about with your high IQ, and you know to be false, and you know how to point out that person's contradiction, instead of doing that, try just shutting up. Try just shutting up and nodding along. Because I know you think you always have to say what you believe. I know you think that, like, oh, I should always say what I believe, you know? Where's that getting you? Huh? Because in the overwhelming majority of situations, showing off your intelligence and being able to point out every single contradiction that is wrong with what your friend says, or just random people that you meet, like, well, actually, shut the fuck up. No one gives a shit. Stop flaunting your intelligence. You seem like a geek. You're unpleasant to be around. And you wonder why you have no friends. Try this. Try acting retarded. Now, you might not want to take it to that extent when it comes to working a job, you know, in your work environment. You don't want to take it to that extent because you do need to show a degree of competency. But you still need to downplay your intelligence a little bit with certain people you collaborate, and especially your boss. Never outshine the master. But with your friend group, or especially when you're dealing with your partner, try acting retarded. And the world will just get so much better, you know? If a woman were to come in this door right now, while I'm recording this, and say I finished the recording and she comes in here to chat or whatever, like, what were you talking about? Honestly, I was just thinking about if vanilla ice cream is better or chocolate. What do you think? Oh, but nah, chocolate is like, I really like when they have fudge in it. You know, like the chunks of fudge. Oh, you ever tried like when there's marshmallows in it too? It thinks like Rocky Road. Try that. Try that instead of talking about stupid fucking politics, which you shouldn't care about anyway, because you shouldn't care about anything that's beyond your control. The only times you should be talking about something like that or flaunting your intelligence is if it's for your job, for your business. Like if you are a political figure, if you are like a Nick Fuentes influencer, then it makes sense for you, because the pros certainly outweigh the cons, because that's your source of revenue, that's your source of status and power. That makes sense. But if you're an average Joe Schmo, stop talking about politics. Stop talking about physics, and stop talking about all these smart things. Like, just keep it surface level, okay? Keep it surface level, slow, basic, and simple, and you're just gonna be a good vibe to be around. You know, when I go out on a date, do you think I'm talking about fucking politics or computer science? You think I'm talking about physics? Even though I love physics and I do computer science for my work. No. Stupid. You know what I do? I'm gonna sit back. Yo, like, the lights in here are so fire. The lighting in here is really good. I'm just such a good vibe in here. Oh, I can't wait to eat. I'm so hungry. I'm starving. Like, oh, that steak, it looks so good. Look how juicy it looks. Wow. Oh my god. Like, so juicy, and it's cooked like medium. I love that. Oh, this tastes so... That's it. That's all you need to talk about. Stay in the moment. Don't get all philosophical and shit. Hide your intelligence. It's not just what you say too, it's how you say it. And your speech patterns and your behavior. When John Slack and Arnold were walking around New York, and they're gazing up at the architecture like, whoa, look at all this. All of this is important because it plants seeds in people's minds. You can't just tell somebody that you're retarded. You know, you could joke like that. Sure, that's fine, but that's not the effective way to do it. To be effective in it, you need to indirectly demonstrate that you're retarded. And you do this through your behavior, your speech patterns, toning down your vocabulary. If there's a shorter word to use that word. If you can say what you need to say in a sentence instead of a paragraph, just send 5 words. And there's just so many benefits with this too that go beyond what I've talked about already. Like, it's just so nice not caring if people think you're stupid. Like, it is so freeing. In general, just not caring about what other people think at all is such a freeing thing. It's big in stoicism. We'll talk more about stoicism in some other videos. But it's just such a freeing feeling. Like, stop feeling like you need to impress everyone with your intelligence. Stop feeling like you need to be the smartest person in the room. I remember I took this girl out, nice Italian girl, and she's asking me about, what Donald Trump is doing, this and that, and she's asking me about, what's the thing called? I don't even remember because I don't pay attention to politics. What's the thing called where they, like, send people back to their country? ICE, that's it. See, I didn't even know what ICE meant. I actually still don't know what it means. I don't know what ICE stands for. I'm just so tapped out of politics because I can't control it. And so I was like, I have no idea what any of that is. And she was like trying to tell me, like, well, you should learn about it. And I was like, why? And she was like, it's important that you're, like, well-rounded. And I was like, why? Like, so other people could, like, think I'm smart? I don't give a fuck. I would rather everyone think I'm stupid. And then, if somebody finds out your true intelligence, because usually people who stick around you long enough, they stick around you long enough and they start seeing the cracks in your facade, it is that much more impressive when they see your brilliance and that you've been hiding it. It is so much more impressive than the people who are outwardly showing it. People will perceive you as smarter than you really are. So this is something that I've been practicing for a long time, and I think I've gotten a lot better at it. It's something I genuinely try to think about in my interactions all the time. And it also is just more enjoyable too, because you're more in the moment. You're not in your own head, thinking about the smart thing to say. And you could also listen to people better instead of planning out what you're going to say next. Like, you could just listen, and people love to be listened to. I'll give a great normie book is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Great read. So much good insight in that, and it gets overlooked because it's a normie book, but it's incredible. He talks about how these people would go into conversations and they would just listen for like 95% of the conversation, and the businessman afterwards would go to his friends and be like, that was a really sharp kid. That was a really wise kid, really smart kid. The kid didn't fucking say anything, really. He was just listening. When you just listen and you're in the moment and you're not trying to seem smart, you're not trying to show intelligence, but you hide it, it does wonders in so many different ways. Like I said, it is easier said than done. There's going to be times where you spot a contradiction in what somebody says, and you're like, like on the edge of your seat, like, I know that's fucking wrong. I know he's a fucking idiot. I know he's fucking wrong. I know he's stupid, and I could correct him. But just stop. Just let go. Just let go. Lean back. Nod your head. That's crazy, bro. Nah, yeah. That's insane. What are we doing for dinner? And your friends will want to stay around you. This again goes so far beyond just intelligence. But like I said, it's not an absolute. There are times where you need to show your intelligence. And it's not a black and white thing too. Like, you don't seem retarded in every scenario, like fully retard. Like, maybe when you're dealing with women, you act retarded. But not jester retard, Not like you're making a fool of yourself. Just like a little, like, You're in the moment and you're just not thinking too much. You're just, vibing. That's what I mean. I don't mean like acting like a fool. That's don't gesture, Max. That's stupid. But it's not black and white, Like if you're at a job, and you have to be competent. You have to show some level of competence there. I think you guys get the point. That's it for today.